Hello everyone, I'm Jeevan Raj, a certified data science coach at Imarticus Learning, where I've been recognized as the top one trainer at data analytics. I have closely 5 years of experience at data science. Closely, I've been worked on various projects at data science from Python, SQL, by using Tableau, Power BI on various streams I've been worked in terms of data science. So today I will be helping you to have a clear understanding of what is programming language and why you want to learn a programming language. Welcome back. Today you will be learning what is programming language, why you want to learn a programming language, and what is Python, right? So without wasting further ado, we'll start with today's agenda. In this today's agenda, you will be learning various aspects: introduction to programming language, introduction to IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Which environment will be best useful to you to work with data science? I'll be explaining you in detail. And you will be learning what is loops in Python and what are the various types of loops in Python, why you want to go for loop and while loop. And then you'll be also understanding in detail of what is functions, what is user defined functions, built-in functions, and lambda functions. Along with that, you'll be understanding what is pandas, how do you manipulate the data by using the pandas. Along with that, you'll be also learning what is data visualization and what are the various libraries helps you to do more data analysis and visualization. And last but not the least, you'll be also learning what is OOPS, object-oriented programming. So let's start today's topic. What is programming language? A programming language is a formal set of instructions that you can be used to produce the various kinds of input and as well as output. For example, consider you're cooking some dish. So while cooking the dish, you have some certain procedure that you want to follow, right? So the same way, while performing any programming language, you want to start following the certain steps and the procedures. For an example, consider while communicating with you, I'll be using an English as the language. While communicating in English, we follow the certain set of grammars, right? So in the same way, while performing in programming language, you want to follow the certain set of syntax that is also called as grammars, right? So a programming language is a formal set of instructions that can be used to produce various kind of outputs. Programming language allows to developers to write the algorithms, manipulate the algorithms, and as well as to perform various specific tasks. Now we'll talk about what are the various IDEs that can be used to perform Python operations. Before that, let me ask you, what is Python? What do you mean by Python? In simple word, if you ask me what is Python, I can tell you Python is nothing but it is an high-level programming language, and it is also an interpreted language and object-oriented language. What is high-level language then? High-level language is nothing but where humans can understand. A low-level language is where only computer can understand, which is binary coding, right? Which consists of zeros and ones. Whereas high-level language is where human can also understand those programming, and then we can try to solve how to work with doing an analysis rather than how we can do it. We can do what analysis we can do. That is what a high-level language is. If you want to talk about interpreted language, yes, Python is an interpreted language. What is interpreter here? Interpreter is nothing but rather than executing entire code at once, interpreter executes the code step by step or the line by line. So whenever you get any error, the kernel will get stopped and then it will give you an error output so that you can tackle or debug the error so easily. That is what interpreter is. And also we call Python is an object-oriented programming language. So what is object and what is class we'll be learning in detail in the coming session, right? So let's talk about what is IDEs. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. It is a software applications that provides the tools to write, test, and debug the Python code effectively. It helps the programming or it helps the programmers by offering the features like syntax, highlighting the codes, and debugging the tools and integration with various control system. We'll check with various different IDEs that Python supports. So before that, let me talk about why do you want to learn the good understanding of IDEs in terms of data science. So different IDEs supports different paradigm. The first thing, if you want to talk about better code management, it helps to organize the complex project effectively, build and debug your code. It tries to fix your errors very quickly and easily. Data visualization supports. They're essential for analyzing your data. Libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, all the different libraries it allows and it supports. And it also collaborates with different cloud supports. So here we go, we have different IDEs that is displayed over here. So you can choose any of the IDEs. I will be helping you which IDE is used for what task. So the first IDE that has been displayed here is Jupyter Notebook. And the second IDE is Google Colab. And the third one is Visual Studio. And the last is Spider. So as a beginner, you can start with a minimal IDE such as Jupyter Notebook or else Google Colab. As a machine learning enthusiast or as an AI analyst, you can use Google Colab as the platform because you'll be using a lot of GPUs and TPUs, right? As a software developer, you can use VS Code and as well as you can use PyCharm. And if you're working with MATLAB, you can use Spider as the IDE. So what is Jupyter Notebook, right? A Jupyter Notebook is nothing but it is same like your notebook where you can maintain all the codes along with the information in the one scripted files. It is an interactive web-based coding environment that runs the code in the cell instead of a script. It supports the markdown for documentation and as well as visualization by Matplotlib, Seaborn and Plotly. The key features of Jupyter Notebook, if you want to talk, it is an interactive coding, runs small code snippets at a time. It Markdown supports the explanation of the code, and along with that, it works well with the libraries like NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib, Seaborn, etc. The limitations of Jupyter Notebook, if you want to talk, it is not ideal for large project where it will be slightly difficult to you to create an environment and deal with bigger project. It is not great useful for debugging the complex errors. It is used for only for the limited script files or else for the basic users. That is what Jupyter Notebook is majorly used. So let me show you how the interface of Jupyter Notebooks looks like. So I'm just clicking on this Jupyter Notebook. So that will redirect to my command prompt of Anaconda. So now Jupyter Notebook is visible. You can create your own folder or else you can select any of the folder that is present in your path. For example, I will create my own folder in the desktop. I will click on desktop. If you want to create your own folder, there is an option called new. You can just click on this new and below that there is an option called notebook where if you want to write any script file, you can just select the notebook or else terminal, console, file and the folder. First, I want to create a folder. Inside the folder, I will create a notebook file of IPYNB file, that is Jupyter file, and then I will start explaining you what are the commands that can be used in Jupyter Notebook and how to access it. Let me click on this new folder. By default, it is referred as untitled folder. Let me rename this folder as Intro to IDE. I'll click on enter. Can you see here the new folder is created called Intro to IDE. Let me double tap this. So it is in the desktop folder. In the desktop we have Intro to IDE folder. In that I will start creating a new file. Let me click on new and select the notebook. So the notebook is opened. So this is the file name. By default the file name is untitled. Let me modify my file name. So let me modify this file name as intro to IDE using Jupyter notebook. Let me click on enter. Can you see here the title of the particular script file got modified. So we have various tabs on top. So for an example, if you see the first script file or the first cell where it is asking you to write a code elements, you can see on the top, you can see this cell is for performing some code. How do you understand whether it is a code cell or else it is a markdown cell? Markdown cell is nothing but to maintain any notes, right? So now it is in the code cell. How we can distinguish is where you can see square bracket here. That helps you to understand this is an code cell, or else you can see on the top it is toggled as code. If you want to change this to markdown, you can just click on this drop down and select the markdown. So your square bracket that was appearing is disabled, right? So if you want to again go back to the code file, you can just select this code. So let me write some code as print. Print is a function. I am trying to print hello, I am Jeevan Raj, and let me close my bracket. If I use control enter, where it executes and my kernel will remains in the same particular cell. Control enter is the shortcut for executing the particular cell. What happens if you use control enter? The entire code or the entire line will get executed and my kernel will remain same in the same particular cell. You can see the cell number was 2, it has been changed to 3. If I use control enter once again, it will provide you the what is the recent call that we have performed. So if you want to print any other output, like for example print intro to IDE, and if you start executing it, can you see here you get the output. If you use shift enter, the output will be executed and the kernel will move to the next cell. So if you use control enter, the output will be get executed and the kernel will be remains in the same cell. Shift enter will execute and move to the next particular cell. Now I want to make a new cell on top of this particular cell. I want to add a new cell on top of this cell. To add a new cell on the top of particular cell, the shortcut you can use is A. A is the shortcut to create a new cell on the top, that is nothing but above. So you can see if I click on A, the cell will be created on top. So if I want to change this code file to markdown, rather than going here and changing it into markdown, what you can do, you can just simply go back to this particular cell. You can click on execute to go back to the cell. You are not in the editing of the cell. You can just click on yum. That will convert the code cell to markdown cell. Yum is the shortcut for converting the code cell to markdown cell. If you want to get back into the code cell, you can just use Y as the shortcut. So Y is the shortcut for the code cell and yum is the shortcut for markdown cell. So let me give a markdown as intro to IDE. So if I want to execute, I will use control enter. So it is executed, but you can see the main title is very small, right? If I want to increase the size of my font, what I can do, I can use 1, or there is nothing but first hash. That means it is a title. If you want to create multiple subtitle, what I can do, I can just write as subtitle I'll click on escape and I will click on 2. That means 2 hash will be get created. That means the above title is the main title. This is your subtitle. If you want to create another cell which is smaller in font compared to the previous cell, you can use 3 hash and you can specify as subtitle 1. You can see subtitle 1 is a smaller font compared to the subtitle. So this is how we can start creating your documentation. Now I want to provide some pointers, right? So if you want to provide some pointers, what you can do, you can just use hyphen and you can provide as point 1, point 2, point 3, right? You can see here this talks about what is the different pointers that you want to specify. Along with that, if I want to create a new cell below, the shortcut key that you can use is B. B is the shortcut key to create a new cell below and A is the shortcut key to create a new cell above. And you can see here, if you want to cut this particular cell or if I want to remove this particular cell, I can use a shortcut key called X. X is nothing but a cut shortcut key. Can you see here, if I go to this cut this cell, there is a shortcut key that is assigned as X. X will help you to cut the particular cell. A will help you to create a new cell. So this is the functionalities of IDE, that is Jupyter Notebook. If you want to save your file, you can just use Ctrl S and let me minimize it. So the new folder will be get added in the particular desktop where I have saved. If you want to understand like where you have saved the particular file, just you can go back to the previous Jupyter Notebook and you can write as pwd, print the working directory or present working directory. So that will print you the current or present working directory where the file is getting saved. So in the desktop, we have an intro to IDE as the folder. So this way the file is getting saved. So as we talked, the major problem in this particular Jupyter Notebook where I cannot debug my code, and as well as if once it comes to complex project where Jupyter Notebook will not help you to deal with more complex debugging strategies or the analysis, right? So as I mentioned, Python is called as interpreter. So how do you understand whether the Python is an interpreter or not? Just you can go to the particular cell, you can write some code. For example, I'm writing an for in range print. So if you just execute this, here I have mentioned some errors. I have not included iterable here, and along with that I have not included what should be the range of the particular cell. I have not specified the colon here because I am writing in statement. So I have missed out lot many functionalities, but if you execute this, the Python will throw an error where my kernel has started from 4 and it has stopped in I. The kernel is not moved further, right? Because there was some invalid syntax. As I mentioned in the programming language, you want to specify or you want to follow the syntax. Syntax are nothing but a grammar or the certain rules that you want to follow while writing a query or writing a code or writing a program. So first thing is I want to specify the iterable. So let me give any of the name like I or iterable, that is completely your wish. So let me talk about a range of 5. Always keep one thing in mind, Python starts the indexing from 0. Let me provide as colon here because I am writing a statement. So if you are writing multiple statement, you want to write colon here, and here you want to specify the 4 space, that is nothing but 1 tab. So include I. So you can see the output is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to debug this, where Python or where my Jupyter Notebook will not allow me to debug this code to understand what is the process that is happening in the step-by-step analysis. So Jupyter Notebook does not have that functionality to debug the code step by step. So these are the limitations of Jupyter Notebook. So I will be talking in detailed understanding of Jupyter Notebook in the next session. So let me talk about the next IDE, that is Google Colab. So what is Google Colab? A Google Colab is a cloud-based Jupyter Notebook, which is exactly the alternative way of Jupyter Notebook. Whereas in the Jupyter Notebook, you want to download it as the external source, as the software. But Google Colab, you need not to download any software, where it completely works on cloud. It runs on cloud platforms where installation is not at all required. It provides you free GPU and TPU to perform various machine learning and deep learning techniques. The key features of Google Colab is that it works directly in your browser. It may be any of the browsers. For example, it may be Chrome, it may be Mozilla Firefox, or it may be Opera. Any of the browser, it will work, and it is free accessible, where it provides you free GPU and as well as TPU to generate a greater amount of projects or to create greater good projects which require IS processing unit. And it is very easy to share and collaborate within the team. But the limitations of Google Colab is that it is uses the limited session duration, and whenever your internet connection will get cut down, where you want to again rerun the entire code file, where you want the internet connection to work with Google Colab. So let me explain you how Google Colab the interface looks like. This is same replica of the Jupyter Notebook. So let me create a new tab here. So let me search for Google Colab. So the Google Colab is open to you. So you can just select this Google Colab. So this is completely sitting in the cloud platform, where I have not installed or I have not downloaded any software externally, where it is asking two options. One is open the Colab or create a new notebook. So I don't have any notebook at present. So what I want to do, I want to create a new notebook. So click on new notebook. If you want to work with already worked notebook, you can just click on open Colab. So it will ask for the particular file. So you can just select the particular file and you can play with it. So you can see this is the same replica of your Jupyter notebook. So while working with Google Colab, you want to make sure that you are connected. So in the right top, there is a connection access. So it is not connected yet. If you want to connect to your Google Colab, you want to click on this. So it is asking connecting to the server, and it takes 1 minute or less than 1 minute to connect, and you can see it is successfully connected, and where you can have the free access of RAM and as well as disk size, where I got the free 12 GB of RAM and 107 GB as disk size. Let me close it for now. Now if I want to write a code, I can just write as print hello, I am G1 Raj. So if you want to execute the same shortcut, you can use as shift enter. So you can see it has successfully executed and thus printed the information. So if you want to comment some information, so you can use hash and you can provide some comment. Printing and even numbers. So this is your comment. So this will not considered as a code because you have used hash at the beginning. So if you want to provide the even numbers, I will provide it with basic list comprehension. later on stages I will be explaining you what is list comprehension and how you can use this list comprehension. So I am providing for I in range of 10 and I am writing some condition. If I modulus 2 equals to 0, then I want to provide the I. So the output will be even numbers. It starts from 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8 because I am asking for 10, range of 10. So if you want to break down this particular code, what you can do, the first thing is what is the range of 10. So range is a inbuilt function. While talking about the function, I will be explaining you various different types of functions that are already a developer has been created. So if you want to create your own function, you can feel free to do it. I will explain you the step-by-step process of how to create your own function. So if you want to print the range of values, consider range of 10. The output will be displayed as range from 0 to 10. Range is nothing but it gives the values from the minimum to maximum value. That is nothing but the start size is for range, the starting position and colon, step size and then stopping position. Stop and as well as step. This is the syntax that it follows from range. So you can provide it as range of, I want to start from 1, I want to stop till 11 and I want to print the step size of 2. So the output will be 1, it will skip the next value because they have given the step size as 2, by default the step size is 1. So it will print 1 and it will skip next element and print the value of 3 and skip the next element 4 and print the value of 5 and same it goes. But if I execute, the output will be like same range of 1, 11, 2. Why it is printing just the range of 1, 11, 2? It is not giving me the right output, right? To see the right output, you want to enclose with an list or an tuple. So I am explicitly writing it as list. I want the output in format of list. So now we can see here the output is like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That means your starting position is 1 and stop position is 11 and the step size as 2. Always you want to make sure that the starting position is implicit and the stop position is explicit. That's great, right? Where Jupyter Notebook will also work similar as Google Colab as we discussed. But what is the advantages of using the Jupyter Notebook is that where you will get the free runtime access of GPU and TPU. If you want to change your GPU or TPU, you can just go to this runtime. There is an option called change runtime type. You can just select it. You can just select any of the GPU or TPU based on your requirements. Let me select the TPU for now. Whenever you are dealing with complex programming operations like by using the convolutional neural network, so at that particular time you want GPU to be utilized. So you can select GPU and you can just click on save. So now the data is again reconnecting it. Can you see here? The information is reconnecting. So whatever code that I have run before will everything has got removed, right? So again you want to re-execute the entire line of code. That is the other problem that is in Google Colab. That's what I have discussed here. So limited session duration. It disconnects after inactivity, right? So if you want to change the name of the particular file, you can change the name of the file as day 1 and your file got changed. If you want to save your file in the local system, you can just download it. You can just click on the file and then you can start saving or start downloading your file. If you want in IPYNB, you can download it, or else if you want in the Python file, you can just click on this download py file. So it will start downloading both IPYNB or .py file. Again, as I mentioned, how to create a markdown in particular Google Colab. To create a markdown, you can just click on this text. So the new text tab is open to you. This is not a code file, this is a text file. Whatever information you provide in the text file or text cell, that is not considered as a code. So I can just print it as welcome to Imarticus learning. So if you execute this, this will not throw me any error because this is a text file, this is not a code file, right. So consider I will click on code and I will provide the same thing like welcome to Imarticus learning. So if you execute, it will throw you an error because this is your code file rather than your script file. So whenever you provide the code information, you want to make sure that you are providing the codes while executing it or while printing the information. So if you want to load any of the different files, you can just go to this files and you can explicitly load the files. For example, you can click on the files, so that will ask for what is the files that you want to download. If you have any files that you want to download explicitly, you can do that. It will ask you for the path. You can just provide the path details, so that will get downloaded in the particular Jupyter notebook. For example, let me load any of the file like vehicle performance. Let me click on OK. So the vehicle performance file, CSV file is getting loaded. Can you see here? These are successfully loaded. If you want to run this particular file, first I want to copy this path, and now let me import some libraries to load the particular CSV file. Let me import pandas as PD. So I'm giving the shorthand notation for pandas as PD. Well, we have separate session on pandas. In those topic, I will be explaining what is pandas and why it is useful. So to display the data frame, I can just write it as pd dot read underscore CSV because it is the CSV file. So I have provided read underscore CSV. Here you can provide the path details. If you execute control enter, can you see here the data is getting loaded, right? Now you can give some data frame name as the variable, and then you can execute this, and then you can perform some operations like you can give the function called add that provides you the top 5 records. Yes, now there is a question. As I mentioned, I am defining into the variable called df. What do you mean by variable, right? What is variable? So variable is nothing but it is a what do we call it? It is a placeholder of the particular values, right? So for example, I want to specify some values and I want to store in particular bucket that is called variables. So let me create multiple cell here. So whenever you store any information in the particular variable, so the variable itself has some rules and conditions that you needs to be followed while inserting the records. So the certain set of rules and conditions while defining the variables are, the first thing is variables should not contain any numerical values at the beginning, right? For example, now I am providing the variable name as name is equals to G1. It will accept successfully. Can you see here? If I want to print name, it is successfully executed. But if I print as 1 name is equals to G1, it will throw me an error because while defining the variable itself, you should make sure that you are following a certain set of rules and regulations. So name cannot start with, or the variable name cannot start with number. That is your first rule. The second rule, or you can also say in this way, variable, if you want to define some name 1 and name 2, you can do it. But the number should not be beginning. You can write as name 1. It will accept the information, right? So as I told, the number should not be your first character, right? Variable name should not define by number. Now the second procedure or the second step or the rules that you want to follow is where while defining the variable, you should never give the space in between, right? I cannot give a full name. Full name is equals to G1 Raj. So if you specify this, again you will get an error by stating that there is an instead of space, what you can do, you can use underscore. You want to make sure that variable should not contain space in it. Instead of space, you want to write as underscore, full name, right? So along with that, let me explain you what are the other rules and regulations. While defining the variable, uh, while defining the variable, you should not give the special characters. So no special characters are given. For example, now let me specify the variable name like @g1 or @name is equals to G1 Raj. So it will throw you an error by stating that there is a special character that is present. So you want to make sure that there should be no special characters while defining the variables. Can you see here? The question mark that indicates what is the documentation of the particular data. So if you write any special characters, so that will throw you an error. Variable should not contain any special characters. Along with that, it's always a best practice to you to keep entire data or variable in the lowercase rather than keeping it in the uppercase. For example, now I am specifying rank is equals to or ranking is equals to, I will specify as 32nd rank. So while calling the data or while calling the variable, by mistakenly if I call it in the lowercase, it will throw me an error by stating that ranking was not defined. Can you see here? It is throwing an error by stating that name ranking is not defined. That means the variable information what you have mentioned on the top, that the same information needs to be called, right? Why? Because a Python is an case sensitive that treats both uppercase and lowercase as different information. The last thing is, whereas while defining the variable, you want to make sure you are not giving any of the predefined functions or predefined objects. Consider like globe, or else you cannot write as bool, or else you cannot write it as break. So if I specify break is equals to 100 and if I execute it, it will throw you an error by stating that break is an built-in object. So you cannot give any object name or else built-in function name while defining the variables. These are the 5 certain set of rules and regulations that you want to follow while defining the variables. So now you have had a clear understanding of how to use your Jupyter notebook and Google Colab as the IDE. So now let me talk about different IDEs that is present in the market which uses Python programming language. The next is VS Code, Visual Studio Code. So it is a lightweight and it is more powerful IDE, what I can call for Python. It is high level of programmers uses Visual Code as the IDE. It is more highly customizable and which uses some extensions for debugging your Jupyter or Python file. The key features of Visual Studios are integrated terminals where it runs the Python scripts in VS Code, where you can also perform some GitHub integrations by using the VS Code. You can also perform some interactive modes by using the Jupyter cell instead of the script files. But the limitations is again here, it needs the extensions for full functionalities and as well as slight learning curve for beginners. So it will be slightly complicated compared to the Jupyter notebook. So let me open your VS Code and explain you how to use VS Code in real life. So this is your Visual Studio. Once you download and install your Visual Studio, this is how the application looks like. If you want to download and install Visual Studio, you can just write as download VS Code for Windows 11. So you can see here the first icons, you can select the first link. So you can just click on this Windows 11. So the VS Code is start getting downloaded. Can you see here? It is downloaded, right? Visual Studio is got downloaded. So then you can just install it by your own. So if you want to access your Visual Studio, the interface looks like this, where you have different extensions can be downloaded here on the left hand side. So this is your welcome toggle bar, where you can click on this start a new file. They're asking what should be the file name. Let me provide the file name as introduction to IDE using VS Code. So let me click on enter. So it is asking for the path where I want to paste it. Let me click on desktop and create a file over the desktop. So it is in the text format. If you want to change the extension, you can feel free to change the extension of the particular text, or you can create a new file by stating that Python file or Jupyter notebook file. By default, it is in the text file on the top. If you want, you can just specify as intro.ipynb. So that will, by default, it creates the Jupyter notebook file. If you specify intro.py, so that creates the Python file. This is your Python file. So extension is very most important while defining any of the VS Code files. So .py stands for Python file, .ipynb stands for Jupyter file, and this is your text file. So let me go back to the Jupyter file. So as you see, this same terminal like Jupyter notebook is visible. You can just click on this code to access multiple code files. Here you can specify some code like, as I mentioned, print hello, I am Jeevan Raj, right? So you can use Control Enter. So it is executing it. Can you see here? It is go to the terminal. It is searching for the terminal to execute, and it is searching for the kernel to execute. So once it is connected, it will say that it is successfully connected. So this is your terminal. If you want to access your terminal, you can just select this particular icon. So your terminal will be opened here. So let me select the base Python file .py file. Let me execute this information. So can you see here? This is your output. For example, if I want to print a range of values like 1 to 100, you can just specify for I in range of 1, 101. As I mentioned, 1 is nothing but your starting position, 101 is your stop position, where it is explicit in nature, and the step size by default it is 1. So if you write print of I, can you see here it is printed from 1 till 100. So this is how you can use VS Code as an interpreter or an IDE to perform your PyY or IPynb files. So let me minimize it. And now let me talk about the last IDE, that is PyCharm. So PyCharm is one of the more powerful IDE, what I can say, where most of the professional uses the IDE, that is PyCharm. So this IDE PyCharm is created by JetBrains. These are the founders of PyCharm. So the key features of PyCharm is the advantages is you can debug the errors very easily, and it is the smart way and more effective way of writing the codes. So it creates your virtual environment by default and packages, and it manages all the packages. So why you want to create a virtual environment in the sense, consider you are a developer, you have developed the entire project. Now if you want to deploy your project, you are sharing your entire code to the next person who is working in your team. For example, if that X or Y person is using different packages, then there will be an error, because some modules uses the specific packages. If you are using some different versions of packages, so there will be an error. To overcome that, what you can do, you can create your environment. In that environment, you can create an requirements. In the requirements, you can specify individual modules along with their version control, right? So to overcome this version control, we create a virtual environment. So the limitations is it is heavy in the system resource and as well as pro version is paid. So let me explain you how to use PyCharm. So you can just search for PyCharm code editor. So you can see the JetBrains, these are the founders of PyCharm. So once you open the PyCharm, the interface looks like this. So if you want to create a new project, you can just click on this file and you can just click on new project. So here is the path or the location that has displayed where it is in the PyCharm project. In the PyCharm project, they are asking what should be the file name. Let me provide the file name as intro to IDE using PyCharm. So here is your virtual environment. By default, it is created. No need of externally creating your virtual environment. Just click on create. So it is asking we should apply for the new windows or the same windows. For example, let me click on this new window. So new window tab will be created for you of PyCharm. So can you see here? It is creating your virtual environment. It takes few seconds to create your environment. So your environment is successfully created. Can you see here? This is your environment. So it is successfully created. Now the file that is present is main.py file. So if you want to zoom in, just you can click on control and you can just increase your cursor. That will be zoomed out, and zoom in and zoom out you can do it. Now if you want to perform some certain task, consider I am printing it as print Jeevan Raj. So once you have executed, you can just go to this particular run icon. By default, the shortcut key for running this particular script is Shift and F10. So if you use Shift and F10, the shortcut key, can you see here in the terminal you got an output as I am Jeevan Raj. So if you want to perform some operations like for I in range of 10, print I. So again if you use Shift and F10, so you got the output as I am Jeevan Raj and here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the output is printed successfully. Now I want to debug my code. So PyCharm is mainly used for debugging analysis. For example, now I will write it as A is equals to 0, and what I want to do here is A plus equals to, or A is equals to A plus I. A is equals to A plus I. So I am asking to print what is the value of A. Rather than 10, let me keep it as 5 to make it simple. So if I execute it, I will get a result Shift F10. So you got the result as 0, 1. Let me remove this as well. So individually it is printing, first time it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and it is printed as 10. So if you want to directly see what is the output of this, you can just click on F10. So the output is 10 for the particular query. Now if I want to debug how the output as 10, what I can do, I can select this particular cell, that is first cell, and I can go here in the drop down. There is an option called, there is a tab called run. In the run, there is an option called debug. So to debug your entire code, you can use Alt Shift plus F9 is the shortcut. So it is asking the data is present in the main.py file. Yes, the data is present in the main.py. So now it is already set. Can you see here? There is a debug or restart your main kernel, it is displayed. If you want to execute the code step by step, you can use F8. So once I click on this F8, can you see here? It is printing the output of what is the value of A. The value of A is 0 for now. If you execute again F8, it will move to the next particular cell. Now the terminal is in the third cell. So it is telling the value of I is 0 at present. Again, if you click on F8, so again it is redirected and the value of I will be changed to 1 and the value of A will also get changed to 1. So can you see here? The debugging is very simple Again now if I execute F8, the value of I will become 2 and as well as the value of A will become 3 because that is 2 plus 1. So the value of A is 1 and the value of I is 2. So now the A value become 3. So if I execute again F8, the value of I will become 3 and if I again execute F8, the value of A will change to 3 plus 3, that is 6. So can you see here, you can debug your code very easily in step by step. So finally you have ended up with 10 as your output. I hope everyone understood very easily how to debug your entire code by using the PyCharm. This is how useful PyCharm is to debug your code, that what I have mentioned in the slider. So this is the overall understanding of IDEs. What are the various functionalities of IDEs and which functionalities can be used, and which for an intro or as a beginner you can start your journey with Jupyter, and once you are very good at using the Jupyter notebook, then you can go for Google Colab. So you can have an access of cloud based services where whenever you are dealing with complex project by using the convolutional neural network as an images or else text analysis. So at that particular times where GPU and TPU is most oftenly used, and you can use VS Code for high level projects, and if you want to debug your code you can use PyCharm as the terminal. That's all for today's session. Thank you.